Hi, this is the November open mic for Smoke Along Fitness. We have 9, maybe 10 readers today, and they'll be reading work that they have written in the workshop. Maybe. We haven't really stipulated that. But everyone's going to read for maybe about 4 minutes, 4 minutes and 13 seconds, something like that. And our first reader is Angela James. Hi, Angela. I haven't told anybody who's the first reader, but Angela, do you enjoy being the first reader?
Oh, it's fine. I'll be the opening. That's fine.
I love being the first reader at readings just because I don't drink any alcohol until after I've read, and so when I'm the first reader, I'm like, whoa. Okay, so here, Angela James is grateful her midlife crisis has returned her to writing. Her words can be found in various journals, including Blink Ink, Cowboy Jamboree, and Wrong Turn Lit, and are forthcoming at our friend's Pithead Chapel. She has received nominations for inclusion in the Best Small Fictions, Best Microfiction, and Pushcart Prize anthologies. She is a lawyer by day and resides in a small Canadian community with her spouse and many, many pets. Welcome, Angela James. What are you going to read for us today, Angela?
Okay, so it's one that I wrote in October in Smoke Long Fitness, and it's called Rehab Take 3.
Okay,
great. Okay. You walk through the cash-only motel to the room where your daughter is holed up with her drug cronies. Let's go, you say. Today's the big day. You aren't surprised that she arranged a final hurrah. You do something similar each time you go on Weight Watchers. Once she's loaded up and you're pulling out of the parking lot, she squawks that there's a boyfriend she needs to see first. That they are never apart for a single day, let alone 30. That no, he isn't the one that got her on needles. That was the one you liked. You remain firm. She can call him from the facility. Your hands unclench when you make it out of the cluttered downtown. When you're on the highway hurtling past strip malls and factories. I wouldn't be caught dead in these, she complains, waving gray track pants you had packed for her. She wants to buy something decent. When you remind her that she has no money, she pulls out a 20 of dubious provenance and yells that you need to stop at that TJ Maxx over there. You figure it's the least you can do after a long time of doing your least. She immediately runs to their restroom. You desperately hope fate wouldn't play such a cruel joke as to let her OD now when treatment is literally hours away. You huff and stomp outside the door, knocking every couple minutes. Honey, we have to go. To your relief, she emerges, pin pupils and all. You herd her towards the tight section where she grabs black and purple ones from the 2-for-1 rack. The sales associate hesitates before taking the rumpled bill from her scabby hand. You chatter while pounding down the highway, reminding her that this is the nicest of the government-funded places, that she is damn lucky to get this spot, that they're only holding it until 2 p.m. When you announce that you are 20 minutes away, she wails that she needs a washroom. You remind her that the facility has plenty. But she just got her period and needs privacy. You tell her that it will take less time to get to the rehab place than to find a public ladies' room. She tells you not to look at her then, that she will just put her tampon in right here in your car if you're going to be such a fucking bitch. You arrive. The facility must have been a mansion back in its day. You shake hands and shove her into the admitting room where her bags are searched and her body patted down. You sit with members of the admission team and complete paperwork. You are grateful that the social worker assisting you with the Adverse Childhood Events questionnaire keeps a neutral expression. You accompany your daughter to her new room. Patting her mattress, you tell her that this place is so nice. You joke that you wouldn't mind coming here to take a break from your Chardonnay. Everyone thought she would ditch, but you got her there. Victorious, you arrive home. You finally sleep the kind of sleep that only good mothers deserve. You even smile at your annoying cubicle mate's photos of her grandchildren the next day. After work, you settle in to watch a marathon of intervention episodes. Those poor bastards, you think, watching the addict's sobbing relatives. You think about your own stories, and how once all this is in the past, they will seem darkly humorous. The time she pulled a ring off your finger while you were sleeping, then spent 2 hours helping you look for it. How her face looked so determined as she stuffed her own hand into the pail of snotty Kleenex by your bed, saying it has to be here, it just has to. How she would call you at 2, 3, and 4 o'clock in the morning, swearing she is actually standing in line at a grocery store and needs a small e-transfer to complete her food purchase. How you recognized your collection of Precious Moments figurines for sale on a Facebook Marketplace ad the night after you relented and let her back inside your house. How her hand tattoo was even visible in one of the photos. You get a call the next afternoon from the administrator. In a somber voice, she explains that they had to throw your daughter out for using, that one of her friends has already picked her up, that they suspect she smuggled in the drugs on her person. You pour Chardonnay into a beer stein over ice cubes. Tragedy plus time equals comedy, right? You aren't able to laugh yet. You can't imagine making anyone else laugh either. You definitely can't imagine that there will ever be a time when you will have it in you to bring the house down with a zany tale of how she blew up your hopes for her recovery by smuggling drugs on her, well, in her, person. A voicemail from your daughter says she's sorry, but withdrawal is just too painful. One of her friends told her about a program, though, where they put you in a coma and you come out a couple months later all refreshed and detox. So she thinks she'd like to try that one. You understand the appeal of this particular bit of junky lore. You imagine how you too would enjoy a good coma.
Thank you. That is devastating. Thank you so much. And an excellent use of you, the second person. Wonderful start. Here we go.
Oh,
And I'm sure what will be a group of very happy stories. Here we go. Excellent. Our next reader is Mary Waisong Hairi. Mary Waisong Hairi has been writing. No, I'm trying. Has been writing for far too long, going in and out of publications, lit journals only. She studied with Portland writers, Tom Spanbauer and Lydia Yuknovich. Her work, all published long ago, can be found in Crab Orchard Review, our friends at Hong Kong Review, we love Tony, No Tokens, and Silk Road, among others. Mary, what would you like to read today?
I'm going to read Persian Dancing.
Take it away.
I phoned my sister Marcia the day after my daughter's traditional Persian wedding. Marcia tells me what a good time she has had and says, her voice reaching an excited shrill, I met this woman. She showed me how to Persian dance. Marcia lives out in Hillsborough, a 45-minute drive away. I rarely visit, but I do once in a while because it's the only way we'll see each other. After her second divorce, Marcia got a DUI, and having been forced into treatment, has been better off ever since. Though she still drinks some, she no longer drives. It's fun, isn't it? I say. I love Persian dancing. I'm pretty good at it. Think of tiny steps, a snaking spine, hands that twist and turn as the fingers alluringly beckon, come hither, come hither, come hither, my man. In the beginning, the women dance with each other until further into the night, after enough shots have been consumed, the men join in. It steps decisive, bodies almost stiff, hands sometimes raised in fists, but often held behind the back. It's all in the hands, Marcia tells me. She showed me. Everything Marcia says is with an exclamation point, and I imagine her demonstrating while sitting in her recliner, wearing her purple overalls, waving about a beer. I know, I say, smiling. I love it that she's happy. She was beautiful that night, equal to the sparkles and spangles of the Persian women's gowns. And the men? Marcia must be jumping out of her chair. Wow, did you see them? Wow. I pause and close my eyes. No, I say, sad at the memory. My leg was bothering me. I had to go sit down. Aw, says Marcia. Cancer sometimes makes people saccharine. That's too bad. Marcia was mean growing up. She'd scream and hit, putting her full body weight behind her blows. Did you see the necklace? Marcia asks. The one you brought me from Iran. I had caught her bragging to two Persian women outfitted in satin and sequins, their jewelry not costume. And here was Marcia showing off this pitiful little necklace from Tehran's ancient bazaar. Oh, here, she said, upon seeing me standing there, trying to keep her from embarrassing herself. My sister, mother of the bride. Then, as Marcia gave me a too tight hug, the Persian women clapped. And I blushed. Of course I blushed. Then returned Marcia's hug with a tighter squeeze. Marcia says, I saw you and Ali dancing. You used your cane. You looked good. You twirled your hand, did the finger thing. I smile. I'm glad she noticed. Yes, I say. I hope the photographer got a shot. Dancing with a cane like Fred Astaire. I laugh. Dad danced with his cane at Sarah's wedding. Sarah is Marcia's estranged daughter. But he wouldn't have danced Persian style, not him, I answer. Dad was total John Wayne. You know, she says, calculating, Dad lived to be 94, and if you take the difference between his age and John Wayne's, 72, that equals 22. So you've 22 years left to go. God, I don't want to be that old, and I laugh. Why not? Marcia laughs louder than me. Why not?
Oh, I love that. Okay. Yeah, I love the use of the Persian dance as an anchor in that story. Very nice. Okay, our next reader is Ani King. Ani King, they, them, is a queer, gender, non-compliant writer, artist, and activist from Michigan. Ani is the first place winner of the 2024 Blue Frog Annual Flash Fiction Contest, a Smoke-Long Grand Micro Competition 2003 finalist, and has had work featured in Split Lit magazine. They can be found at aniking.net or trying to find somewhere to quietly finish a book without any more interruptions. And I just have to say, Ani, I would read that book gladly. What are you going to read to us today?
I'm actually going to read the one I wrote yesterday for the free write. So it's kind of a mess and it might not make any sense, but I had a lot of fun with it.
I love that. Something so fresh, something that has anyone heard it?
No, no one at all.
Oh, we are
So
privileged.
I
Okay.
thought that would be fun. So this is called The Minotaur's Wife Makes a Map. You marry the Minotaur in the summer, in June, expecting a dewy morning and a kiss of heat, a blushing sunset, but instead nighttime gives way to morning without preamble, the sky a crackling sort of blue, no clouds, just painfully incandescent, just the sun furiously burning away the day. You marry the Minotaur because when you were in high school, you sat together away from everyone else with your sketchbooks and pencils and drew band logos, and women with big breasts and the Minotaurs better at drawing than you. And the Minotaur drew you one time, head flung back, mouth open and full of sharp teeth. The body of a monster with small breasts. The Minotaur was worried you wouldn't like it. The Minotaur said small breasts are better, actually. And the Minotaur said you'd make an amazing monster. And the Minotaur held your hand in the hallway, and the Minotaur took you down to the basement. And the Minotaur took you down to the basement. And the Minotaur took you down to the basement. You marry the Minotaur in the center of a maze because you know the maze is mostly a metaphor, and you know the metaphor is probably an obvious one, and you think the Minotaur's parents have a lot of nerve dumping the Minotaur in the center of the metaphor and going on with their lives. They tell the Minotaur the maze is of the Minotaur's own making. They tell the Minotaur, good luck getting out of this fucking metaphor. You tell the Minotaur you want to help find the way out of the metaphor, out of the maze. Before that, the Minotaur took you down to the basement, and the Minotaur showed you where his parents kept all their own metaphors. And the Minotaur's parents caught you both touching their metaphors, and that's when the Minotaur's parents put the Minotaur in the maze. And that's when you snuck into the metaphor, and that's when you showed the Minotaur what you took from the basement, when the Minotaur took you down to the basement. You marry the Minotaur in June, in abnormally hot weather, in the center of a metaphor, which is represented by a maze, and you weave your bouquet of field flowers into a crown, and you drape the crown of goldenrod, metaphor, and columbine, metaphor, and lavender, metaphor, on the head of the Minotaur, and you drape your dress over one arm, and you drape your body across the naked mattress, and the next morning is even hotter and even brighter there in the center of the metaphor. You marry the Minotaur, and you fuck the Minotaur on the naked mattress, and you fuck the Minotaur in disapproving light, the sun bleaching all the color out of the sky, and you fuck the Minotaur at the dead end of the first left turn, and you in the center of the metaphor, you in the center of the mattress, you love the Minotaur. During the day, the Minotaur walks variations of right, left, forward inside the metaphor. The Minotaur often gets lost in the metaphor, and you often guide the Minotaur back out of the metaphor. You tell the Minotaur you want to walk in the metaphor together. You want to let a string out behind you. You want to make a map. And the Minotaur says, I always thought you were smart, but apparently you think I'm stupid and I can't come up with something like that. You tell the Minotaur that's not it at all. You tell the Minotaur maybe it's best to not even worry about the metaphor. And you drape your body across the mattress, and you let a string out behind you, and the Minotaur takes you down to the basement. You marry the Minotaur, and you love the Minotaur, and you look for a way out of the metaphorical maze for both of you. While the Minotaur sleeps, you go into the metaphor, and you let out a string behind you, and at some point it breaks, and you get lost in the metaphor. The Minotaur has to come find you in the metaphor. The Minotaur screams your name running through the metaphor. The Minotaur follows the metaphor of your string through the maze of the metaphor. It's only for a minute, but the Minotaur's shadow looms over you. The sun is behind the Minotaur, eclipsed by the Minotaur, and you are afraid of the Minotaur. Because one time the Minotaur brought a metaphor to school, and the Minotaur was going to use that metaphor to show everyone how literally the Minotaur was ready to be taken. And that metaphor is the reason the Minotaur is in this metaphor. And the Minotaur gathers up the metaphor of your string, and the metaphor wraps around your neck, and the metaphor is too tight, and the Minotaur says it's your own fault for trying to run away. And the Minotaur ties your hands together with the metaphor of your string, and the Minotaur ties the two of you together so you both choke when you walk. And so you get your wish to travel the maze together every day. You walk variations of right, left, forward, and you've lost the metaphor. You can't remember if it's about a woman who wants to save a monster, or a marriage falling apart, or about a long red string that keeps breaking. But the string around your neck is taking so long to break, and the Minotaur keeps threatening you with the metaphor you took from the basement, when the Minotaur took you down to the basement. And it's so hot in the center of the maze. The light drapes across the mattress like a body, and you wear the light like a wedding dress, and the light crowns the Minotaur at the start of every day. And the metaphor begins again at the start of every day, and the Minotaur unties your ankles and chases you through the metaphor every day.
Okay. I'm and you did that yesterday with the free write.
Yeah.
Huh? Great. All right.
It was a weird one.
I saw it because there was this interaction between you and someone else. I think it was Molly, or was it Lori, or some. It was somebody here.
Yeah, Molly.
It was Molly. Okay, good. And about this sounds like a Minotaur going. Somebody said a Minotaur going shopping, and you were like, I can. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, Costco is a nightmare from
Yeah,
which
that's right.
almost none of us ever return. So,
Yeah. Exactly. Although I like the large aisles at Costco, because everything feels so claustrophobic to me in supermarkets, especially where I just came from. I was in Costa Rica for a month, and yeah, everything's just so like pushing by people. But yeah, thank you so much for that. I can't wait to see that out in the world. Okay, thank you so much. We need to so mute yourselves. We'll go to the next round of readers, which begins with Dawn Tasaka Steffler. Dawn is an American, Asian American writer from Hawaii who currently lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. She was a Smoke Long Quarterly Emerging Writer Fellow, winner of the Bath Flash Fiction Award, and selected for the Wigleaf Top 50 long list. Her stories appear or are forthcoming in Pithead Chapel, Flash Frog, Ghost Parachute, Fractured Lip, Moon City Review, Iron Horse Literary Reviews, Photo Finish 2024, and more. Find her online at Dawn Tasaka Steffler with 2Fs.com and on X, Blue Sky, and Instagram at Dawn Steffler with 2Fs. Remember, what are you going to read for us, Dawn?
I'm going to read a story called Dad Jokes. It's from a collection I'm working on about parenting transgender young adults.
Yeah. Okay. Take it away.
Okay. Dad jokes. Your mom calls to say your dad had a stroke. He's in surgery. She says she'll keep you in the loop. You remember the joke he cracked when you visited him at the hospital after his first heart attack. Did you hear the one about the guy who drank invisible ink? He's at the hospital waiting to be seen. Your mom calls to say your dad's being moved to an inpatient rehab center. The right side of his body is paralyzed and it's hard to understand him when he speaks. But she thinks it's important for you to know each time she visits, he asks about you. She also says she understands if you're not quite ready to see him yet. You remember the joke he said after you told him you were trans. I ask people what LGBTQ stands for, but I never get a straight answer. And another joke you overheard him telling his buddies. What do you call a gay dinosaur? A megasaurus. What do you call a lesbian dinosaur? A licholotopus. Your mom calls to say your dad's being moved to a nursing home. She says he asked if he could stay with her temporarily. She said no, even though he's really changed. To his credit, she says she's never seen him so focused, apologetic, and humble. You remember a joke he mumbled when it was his weekend and you were doing math homework on his dining room table. Algebra is a lot like divorce. You look at your ex and you wonder why. Your mom calls to say your dad had another stroke and he's back in the hospital. She says maybe it's time to visit him, not for his sake, but for yours. You remember a riddle he used to tell you every night when he tucked you in. What did one volcano say to the other? I lava you. Or the random one he told you after picking you up from school one day. Why did the kid drop his ice cream? He was hit by a truck. Or his favorite one to tell little kids. Why do birds fly south? Because it's too far to walk. And the one he left on your voicemail after he found out you were married and he obviously hadn't been invited to the wedding. What did the earthquake say when it was done? Sorry, my fault.
I love the use of the dad jokes here. It works so well. I can't wait to read this collection, Dawn. I and how far are you along on it?
I have about 12 or 13 stories, and
Okay.
I have a couple of really long ones that are taking a long time to craft.
Yeah. And but okay, so that of course would be enough for a chapbook, but that's not your intention, right? So you have the intention of writing several more stories.
Yeah, I would love to submit this to the Moon City Award,
Hmm.
and to have a chapbook embedded with other stories. So it would be like the
Right.
beginning of the chapbook
Hmm.
and other stories.
Uh-huh. Like
That-
Vanita Blackburn wrote I think How to Wrestle a Girl is
okay.
that way. I think but Vanita wrote one almost exactly like that. It's like almost a novella and a stories. So I think it's How to Wrestle a Girl, but I'll contact you personally about that. Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. Our next reader is Shira Musicant. Shira lives in the foothills of Santa Barbara with her husband, a black cat, and 5 chickens. She has been nominated for a Pushcart Prize and is a runner-up in the Blue Earth Review Summer Flash Fiction Contest. She has current and forthcoming stories in Vestal Review, Santa Barbara Literary Journal, Fourth Genre, Lucent Dreaming, Blue Earth Review, and Does It Have Pockets? What are you going to read for us today, Shira?
Hi, Christopher, and everyone. I'm going to read a story I wrote, I think in October and workshopped here, and I want to be very clear that it is fiction. He promised no dog. The chickens glare at me. Thelma in particular, laser light little eyes. She is a movie reference. My husband, of course, thought of that. The other red one, Louise, had died in the night. I don't know why or how, but it seems Thelma blames me and is exacting some sort of revenge. Hey, I'm doing this for you, I say, while I change her water. But she heads for my hand and pecks, drawing blood, taking little morsels of skin and flesh. Bambi and Scarlet watch Thelma attack me. Watching and learning, I see it in their inquisitive little faces, their wobbly red wattles. Chickens should have warning labels attached. Thelma misses Louise. Husband excuses Thelma's behavior when I tell him. Just be her friend. She can befriend her own species, I say, but he pats my shoulder and leaves for work. Animals have never liked me. I think I have pheromones or something. Thelma never pecks husband. The cat never bites him. Yes, we now have a black cat he adopted, so I would not be lonely while he works his long hours. Obi-Wan gnaws at my legs when I'm sitting at my desk or standing at the kitchen counter, even after I've fed him, as if my body parts are liver-flavored crunchies, just harassing my shins, though sometimes he punctures the skin. He watches me with his ears pulled back, Yoda-like. A cat bite is dangerous, husband informs me. You should wash it and go to urgent care if it gets red. He is not a doctor, but fancies himself knowing a lot about a lot of things. His ears up, Obi studies the girls inside their fenced yard, eyes tracking their jerky little strut. He could probably climb the nearby oak tree and get over the fence, but so far it hasn't occurred to him. I wouldn't have minded. Chickens are my husband's romantic idea of what a house with a white picket fence should have in the backyard, what a newly wedded young couple's life should include, chickens and a cat. I had no dog written into our wedding vows next to sickness and health. He brought the girls home shortly after our honeymoon. Fresh eggs for breakfast, he'd announced. Oh no, I'd said, you feed them. I'll just have oatmeal. Can't. I'll be at the office. He thinks I am living the dream, working from home and taking care of a garden and the animals. That's me, a regular farm girl. Lately I wear gloves when I go out for chicken chores, handling the water and the pellets, gathering an egg or two. Thelma sometimes assaults my arms and legs, so I've added long sleeves and jeans to my protective repertoire. And sunglasses. I see her eyeing my eyes with her beady little orb. Last night I fantasized putting Obi in the chicken yard and letting everyone have a go at each other. This morning, husband at work, I take off my pajamas to armor myself for chores. Small puncture wounds run up and down my legs. Tiny V-shaped cuts dot my arms. I've swelled up in the night. I swear our chickens are vampires. Hives, husband says on the phone from his safe desk. Get some antihistamines or something. It's a mind-body thing. Try thinking positive thoughts. I smear antibiotic ointment on the wounds and bandage my arms and legs. My thoughts are not positive. When I go outside, I see that Obi has mastered the climb up the oak and into the yard. He is drinking from the chicken water next to Thelma. They are bonding. They lift their heads in unison and look at me. Bambi and Scarlet approach, heads bobbing. Their buffy-colored feathers are fluffed out to look tough, as if they are gang members, which they are. But still, I am bigger. I have opposable thumbs, and I use tools. I imagine husband coming home from work later today, walking in the door, soft music and good smells wafting through the house, the table set for dinner. He will sniff the air and say, yummy. Yes, I will say, chicken soup.
Oh, I love All of the tiny aggressions there. Very nice. And the opposable thumbs. Excellent. And yeah, that's a nice turn there. Thank you, Shira. Very nice. And I had actually read that story just a few days ago because you've sent it for feedback. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah.
can I just say that I really do love my husband and I love my chickens and I really love my cat. I just wanted to say that.
But they can still be inspiration.
They are.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I say that all the time. What an inspiration. Yeah, and exactly, not exactly a chicken soup for the soul story, no, but excellent use of chicken soup. Chicken soup. Okay. Our next reader is Beth Sherman. Beth Sherman's stories have appeared or are forthcoming in Flash Frog, Gone Lawn, Tiny Molecules, and Bending Genres, among many others. Her work is included in Best Microfiction 2024, and she's had multiple Best Small Fictions, Pushcart, and Best of the Net nominations, and I added and many others, Beth. And Beth, what are you going to read for us today?
I'm going to read a micro called My Father Was a Cuttlefish that is going to be published in Gone Lawn next month.
Excellent. We love Gone Lawn.
My father was a cuttlefish, always changing shape and shade. When my mother called his name, he turned gray as gravel or neon green as the plastic seagrass she purchased to jazz up the tank, his jaws mimicking the orange and white stripes of the clownfish he hid behind when dinner time rolled around. He had 3 hearts, one reserved for us, one for the male tetras he met behind the fake deep-sea diver, flicking gill to furtive gill, the roughness of scales, shame mingled with delight, and one heart just for himself, secret and unknowable, a mystery he kept stashed beneath jagged purple barnacles. Weekends he'd take me for a swim and hold me in his tentacles, as if he thought I might drown. He taught me how to see things I might otherwise miss, the greedy, puckered mouths of catfish, which hands sprinkled flakes and which would scoop us into a net, how to look beyond the bowl to an unseen ocean. He could swivel his eyes to view what was behind him, but not into a future where my mother grew to hate his disguises, to blame herself and then him for the blank space that was their marriage. He was not a fish at all. That, my mother screamed, breaking leaf hammocks, breaking promises, was the problem. He quick-tailed away, hunching near the filter, squid-like, until one day he leaped over the smudged glass and plunged to the carpet below. Our bowl grew cloudy with grief. Bacteria bloomed. Hairy threads of algae sprouted everywhere. Coral turned muddy brown. Starved of air, I couldn't stop gasping, emitting a string of useless bubbles into the murky water. Though he wasn't good at cuddling, I knew he adored me. When threatened, he released a cloud of sepia ink that confused predators and allowed him to escape. The ink was good for writing, too. After he died, I found dozens of journals outlining his frustrations, the choices he'd cast off, how sometimes he wished he could be a goldfish instead, content to amuse and delight, a welcome prize at the fair.
Oh, I love that. When's it coming out?
Mid-December.
Okay. Yeah, about the time our issue comes out. Yeah, I remember Gone Law and Smoke Law kind of the same, but they have monthly issues, right? Oh goodness, I can't remember. So mid-December. My dad was a cuttlefish. Is the title? Or
Yes, my dad was a cuttlefish. It's sounds like
cut
cuddle, but it's really a
right
cuttlefish.
with T's.
With
Yes, exactly. Perfect. Thank you. One more in this round is Alyssa. Is Alyssa Field here already? Say yes if you are here, Alyssa. Otherwise, we'll go to the next. Okay, the next reader is L.M. Fontanes, is a multiracial, multi-genre storyteller who writes, teaches, and leads. She comes from a family of educators and first responders in working class Philadelphia. Words in and upcoming in Frazzled Lit, Jake, 34 Orchard, Flash Fiction Festival Anthology, and the Willow Herb Review, Flash Fiction, Nonfiction, Food, and Other venues. Welcome, LM, or as we refer to her, Lori.
I know. I don't know if you noticed, I've rebranded myself. My fiction is LM.
Okay.
I don't know why. And my nonfiction. And so I'm sorry, Linda, I'm not going to read the cat story because I signed this really long, detailed contract. And since we're recording this, I didn't want to. I don't want to mess with it. So I'm going to read my Jake piece instead, which actually came out of this workshop, the fastest thing I've ever written. And I couldn't have done it without you guys. So thank you. It's called Tell Me That One Again. My mom tells me there used to be this Nowheresville bar in Jersey where college guys would take her on quarter drink nights. A quarter of a drink. What a joke, I snort, though I know the real story. No, silly, 25 cents a drink. She shakes her Brillo pad curls. Pretty watered down, though. Yeah, pretty watered down, I say. She's told me this one enough that I get a 25% contact high just hearing it again. But at least she could still string sentences together, and at least I scrambled over here as soon as I got the ping from Nick. He keeps an eye on his regulars. We take the Tacony Palmyra. Cheaper toll, I chime. Head south on, what's that, 130? Why'd you take 130, Ma? I don't remember. Her once fierce chocolate eyes search for the lost route, then get off the next exit. One guy had this real spiffy Honda Accord. His dad made beaucoup bucks. He didn't live in Philly, did he, Ma? Not real Philly, Montgomery County or one of those places. Gotta take the turnpike, Ma. Yeah, the turnpike. I should put the kibosh on our nights here, I think once again. Mom swirls the dregs in a rocks glass. Nick must be in the John because a girl I've never seen before comes up and gives me that, what can I get you look? I shake my head. She shrugs with just enough sympathy that I don't feel shitty. Barkeep semaphore to say she might be new, but she's already met Ma. King of Prussia, my mom blurts, apropos of nothing and everything. King of Prussia exit. She looks around to make sure everyone heard. Now she gets that look, the end of the night look. Did I ever tell you? Ma whispers, so low I need to lean in, even though I know this story better than the quarter drink story. Did I ever tell you? Tell me, Ma. Our heads now side by side as she looks out at a world she seems surprised to be in. Your father never took me to Jersey. Yes, Ma. Your father never lived to see your first steps. I know, Ma. As she takes one last sip, but before she can raise her spotted hand with a skinny gold band to signal for another, I touch her bar-hunched shoulder. Let's head out, I whisper, and then slide her Subaru keys into my pocket and guide my mother toward the always swinging door.
Oh, what a good relationship. I love how you've created that relationship in this story. Very nice.
Thank you, Christopher.
Excellent. Welcome back. We are here with the November open mic for Smoke Long Fitness in our third round. And our first reader in the third round is Sandy Krosnick. Sandy Krosnick is new to the Smoke Long Fitness experience. Okay, not so new, Sandy. We'll talk about that in a second. Her writing has appeared in Flash Boulevard and Free Fall magazine. She lives in Alberta, near the Canadian Rocky Mountains, with her wife and their rescue dog, Holly, who has an appointment in a little bit. So how long have you been with Smoke Long Fitness, Sandy?
Hi, since May.
Yeah, that's what month is it now? November,
Yeah.
for another 12 hours. Okay. So newish.
Wish.
Okay. So is Holly okay?
Holly is just fine. Yes, but
Okay,
we
good.
have yeah.
All right, very important. So what are you going to read for us today, Sandy?
I'm reading the story that came out of October's monster theme in Free Right to Final Draft, and it's Monster in a Yellow Dress. Clara hears her mother's call like a voice on the wind and knows she's wandered too far from the house. She skipped by the beehives, stopped to toss rocks at their colored boxes, and sang a song to wake them, then twirled into the woods in her imaginary play. only now seeing the rushing water through the trees. "Don't ever let me catch you near the river," her father has told her. Clara's father is a giant. He has big hands and a big voice, and she can stand with both legs in his boot. She always does as he says. She's his best girl. He was tired and grumpy, shooing her from the house after breakfast. He said that Mommy and Daddy had grown-up things to discuss. The night before, she'd woken screaming with a monster nightmare, one who broke dishes and made thumps in their home at night. Her daddy came to soothe her and promised that everything was okay. He rubbed her back till she fell asleep again. Clara circles back to their property, running through the corn to hide where she's been. She didn't mean to go so far. Her chest heaves up and down in her effort to get back. Clara's mother stands in the fenced garden, hand on hip, the other tenting her eyes, looking for her 5-year-old. "Here," Clara shouts back. "I'm here, Mommy," she says, when she is close enough not to get into trouble. Her mother turns to her voice and smiles. As Clara nears, her mother dances and waves her arms. Clara is eager to join her. At the fence, she stops. This isn't her mother. It is a monster in her mother's yellow dress. Its forehead is puffed up, and the eyes are sunk in marbles. It claws at its neck and waves at the pretty bumblebees that fly around. The monster falls to its knees, the dress in the dirt. Its face is red and its lips blue. The beast looks at Clara and makes a terrible noise, reaching for her. Clara turns away and runs to the house screaming, "Daddy, there's a monster in Mommy's dress." Her father appears instantly through the screen door. He looks at Clara, then raises his chin towards the garden. He swings the door wide with one arm and bounds down the stairs. The screen door slaps shut behind him. "Clara, run to the neighbors," her father yells back. "Quick!" Clara pumps her arms and legs like little engines and doesn't look back. Her daddy is bigger than the monster. He'll take care of it. He'll protect her.
Yeah, the relationship between the father and the daughter, Clara, really nice. Yeah, parent-child relationships today, interesting. Okay, so toy for Holly. And the next reader is Alyssa Field. Alyssa writes literary noir in flash, short, and novel form. Some of her favorite stories and friendships started in smoke-long workshops. Her work has appeared or is forthcoming in Smoke Long, Pete Smoke, Craft, Fractured Lit, Citron Review, Monkey Bicycle, Bull, and elsewhere. She was a Smoke Long Emerging Fellow in 2023 and is a current submissions editor at Smoke Long. She lives in an historic tiny house under an ancient mango tree. Find her spread thin across all socials or at AlyssaLaurenField.com. What are you going to read for us today, Alyssa?
I am going to read a piece that I was worried that I read it with you guys before, but I think I actually read an earlier version because this one started in Smoke Long, as so many good things do. This one is one that is coming out in Pete Smoke, I think January 15th, and it's called Saddleback. When the fire came, I went up the hill, thick into the scrub, up Saddleback. Stayed off the roads where tires were melting to pavements. Cars honking desperation for the clog of those who'd gotten out and fled. Stupid decisions, all it is. Animal brain malfunctioning, so disused. The scrub smoked already, earth itself baking animals out of holes. Rabbits, snakes, vermin of all kinds streaming down over the tops of my boots that had gone unmelted already, 4 tours in the Middle East. But this fire, words fail. The roar of it fought me backward, kept going. Stampede of deer, llama, horses, a goat. There was, half up the ravine, a car slid onto a rooftop. A dog stood atop the back of a horse. The horse stood, blank gaze at me, shoulder deep in a swimming pool. Eyes lemured at me from inside the house, a man and a woman holding hands, eyes begging. Would they be okay? I signaled one hand in direction of the pool. Horse, dog had the right idea. I found you. I found you in a concrete shelter just short of the ridge, ducked in, both of us. Just a breather. You had cradled around you a dozen furred, blinking faces, bodies hammocked in slings swaddled to your waist. Could be cats, dogs, could be vermin. Loose slings of canvas argued you had room for more. But you'd stopped. You'd stopped and doubled over, hands on knees, struggling for breath. The fire roaring over, jumping hill to hill, caught on an upwelling of air off the ocean. Not at the moment, our friend. Wordless, you pointed. The horse, head hanging in the opposite corner of this shelter that had been a house, had been a garage, had been somewhere safe long before last year's fires, now only the walls and roof between us and flame. A gray or a chestnut white with ash or a scorched white. Your nose, you pointed. The smell of it, the smoke of red cinders in its tail, the melt of its hooves. You patted your waist mottled with heads that bade me answer. You already loaded down, no sling there left for a horse. What would I do? Roar of fire borne down to its growl. What would I do? The eyes of all those faces encircling your waist. What would I do? I pushed down the mask protecting my face, pushed down yours, kissed you. Squeezed eyes to black every thought we'd ever had, every cool breeze, every damp night, every wind across it, every sultry lingering in cool sheets. You shoved back against my chest, wordless question, what? All those years of you begging, use your words, tell me what you're thinking. Too much roar to speak, even if all that bottleneck left my throat. What I wanted was a camera, a phone that hadn't disabled itself against the heat hours back, so I could show you, not this horse, but the dozens that crushed me down the hill all night, stampede rising clouds of earth against clouds of smoke. Wish I'd words to draw a picture for you of what I'd left coming back for you up the cliffside. Horses, llamas, goats, alpacas, all those who'd stampeded down the mountainside, crossed the PCH and lingered there where Earth ended at the Pacific. Hundreds of them wandering wild, hundreds tied off to the railings of lifeguard towers beneath the rabid orange sky. Wanted to tell you about the dog on the horse's back and the safety of the pool. Wanted to tell you about the lovers, the lemur-eyed husband and wife holding hands as if they'd just discovered love. Wanted to tell you, go, I shouted, recovering your face, tucking in loose hair, pushed you out. Wanted to tell you I'd followed this horse back up the hillside, clung to her tail as it caught fire, squelched out the embers until they burned through the thick leather palms of my gloves. Wanted to tell you what had been yelled at me from down the hillside. Don't chase her. She'll lead you back into the fire. She won't stop going back for them. The mare in the corner rising her head, splutter of her exhale, struggling to clear nostrils, caught her breath, asking, was I ready to crack on? Wanted to tell you. Go, I showed it again, ducking as a blast jumped over our heads. You passed me another canvas to cover the mare's eyes to lead her down. Wanted to tell you the way the mare would pull me, what she'd left in the paddock behind. Pulled down my mask to smile. I'll be right behind you.
Okay. That was beautiful. Devastating and scorching is the word I was looking for. The rhythm of your prose is immaculate, Alyssa. I just love. You could just sit here and listen to it all day. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Our next reader and last is Danielle Sacanino. Danielle is an English teacher, a writer, and a new mother. Congratulations. Her first book Suppose Muscle, Suppose Night, Suppose This is August is available from Mason Jar Press. She has an MFA from Texas State University, and her writing appears in journals such as Diagram, Waxwing, and Puerta del Sol. She is the editor-in-chief of Fast Flesh Literary Journal. So congratulations on those things, Danielle. So I know Mason Jar Press is gone under. What's happening with your book?
They paused briefly and they were going to send some of the books elsewhere, but I think they recently decided to unpause and try to push on with a different distributor. So I think my book is still out in the world. Yeah.
Okay, so everyone look for it. We need to support them and Danielle, of course, because the people at Mason Jar Press, Michael Tager, I never pronounce anyone's name right, is a good friend of ours, and they participated in our book fair at virtual book fair this summer. So give them their support if you can. Danielle, what are you going to read for us today?
This is something I drafted last year as a short story and then cut down to Flash in SLQ Fitness. So it's called Midnight Multiplying, or Pomegranate's Disease. Yelena lay in bed, midnight multiplying the wounds. The machines hung around. She wasn't quite right. One of the guards came near, and she pretended to be asleep. She changed her mind and hissed instead, flashed her eyes at him like a bat. He was fine. Yelena had bit him a few times, and nothing had happened. He wasn't even fazed. Some neighboring woman whose name she couldn't remember, she was so bad at names. She knew her as Fear of Being Seen, caught her eye. Shit, Yelena thought, she'll be shrieking any second now. The last thing Yelena remembered from the real world was a date with a crazy woman. The word crazy was back in style. As a girl, she had started a fire at her church camp. Her legs had been smooth, freshly shaved, 0 cuts. A much more careful hand than Yelena. Her memories were all like this, burning quick like a shot of Jaeger, singeing her fingertips, a sparkler she held a second too long. She wanted someone to confirm she was occupying the same physical space as them, but was scared she'd hear otherwise. Her eyes were raccooned, her tears, blackened with makeup, carved out paths on her face. A bruise peeked out curiously. There was one girl she referred to as Fear of Birds. Or had the warden come up with that? She couldn't remember how any of it started, only that no one seemed to remember their birth name except her. Like anything with birth in the name was wrong. Fear of Birds, who was young and innocent, sought out an older woman for protection, fear of her last words not being, I love you. They had a sweet bond, those two. She lived with a group of wild women. Wild, too, was back in style. They coated their hands and shouted at the top of their lungs. They smeared their blood around to spite the guards. Yelena was wearing, for some reason she could never quite figure out, an old yellowing nightgown. In the closet, according to Fear of Grown-Ups, was some kind of beastie. A former teacher, Fear of Not Doing Enough, pulls her own hair, unable to ignore a constant itching of the skin. Other roommates include Fear of Being Touched and Fear of Sin, kindred spirits. The cowering one, who had Lizzie Borden disorder, or maybe just the fear of it. Fear of inflammation of the meninges. Fear of crumbling, fear of disease. One woman, 2 nicknames. The rooms, she had discovered on her second week, when she had energy to walk around and explore, had symbols on the door, an illustration of a cracked egg, an eye, a shattered mirror. She didn't know what they meant. Roommates continued. Fear of forgetting, fear of time, best friends since before they arrived. Fear of not being interesting enough, as evidenced by the accent she seemed to be faking. Yelena put on a sleeping mask and closed her eyes. The doctor told her to count to 1,000,000. Somewhere a girl barked. Teeth opening, winged pain flying out. Carpaccio, a red meat named for a red painter. She'd have been better off without all that mess. Unsettling sitcom laughter, cross-eyed in a crowd. She forced herself to calm down. Fear of being used. Fear of tilting buildings, the floor slipping away underneath her, 35 years old. Fear of the moon falling, 46 years old. Fear of showering when no one else is home. In her head, she wrote a love letter to the possibility of sanity. Game shows, a bomb, glass slipper, a shower faucet that released semen, blood-breaking windows, cracking the code on the doors. Yelena lay in bed, midnight multiplying the wounds. The machines hung around. She wasn't quite right. Did the world fall ill at once, or was only the ill world visible? She wanted attention and felt the sufficient amount of shame that required of her.
I love it. And one thing I particularly love about this is the refrain of fear of to name the people. This is an excellent example of what I talk about sometimes, like as the verse chorus framework that you could create a story as, and I talk about it in the Music of Flash webinar. And this is actually a really good example of that. Coming back to the refrain of fear of, and it acts as a sort of chorus. Is this published somewhere, Danielle?
No, I haven't sent it out yet.
Okay, so as soon as it's published somewhere, let me know because I would definitely love to use it as an example in my workshops.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. We are going to end rather punctually, which is a miracle of miracles, because video guy's already dressed to go to the gym. Yeah. Okay. So a little bit of news for everyone who is in the workshop, as I think everyone here is. Your first writing tasks for December, they're going live on Monday. And in December, we are going to do writing tasks that are all things games. And all of our writing tasks will be related to some sort of games, which I will talk about starting Monday, about how difficult it is to write a story with action in it that has a board game, for example, at its present moment. It's the same thing with dinner. Like everyone's sitting around the table eating dinner or something. So you have a stasis that's implied in the story because everyone's just sitting there. And normally, when you're playing a board game or like a card game, you have everyone just sitting there. And so we're going to look at narratives that create a sense of movement while we also have people sitting in one place. That's one thing we'll be talking about. We're also going to be talking about game shows. That's also one thing. And sports. So we have a lot of different situations that have to do with games in December. I know December is sort of a busy month for a lot of people. So our writing tasks are going to be as fun and the least complicated writing task I can think of, maybe short and fun things that will not be so challenging in a month that everyone is going to one Christmas party after another. Right, not me. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for coming, and I'll see you in the workshop. Bye-bye, everybody.